Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Happy Thursday to you. We're going to go ahead and take a look at XRP. I got a lot of requests here in the last 15 to 20 minutes. Just asked me to go ahead and cover this and explain, why this is happening. And truth be told, this is mostly just, an update for the Ripple case, right? So I can kind of jump right into that here in just a moment, but generally speaking, this is fundamentals, and those are things that are providing, some type of catalyst for this, right? So again, the price is increasing based on that sentiment, but the key is to understand roughly support and resistance levels when that happens, so you can kind of help on, kind of diagnose which direction it's going to go from there, right? So again, kudos to any of you that you got in right in the 43 to 44 cent range, because you're up a pretty decent amount of percentage. In fact, why don't we take a look at that really quick here? The percent is almost 18% from bottom to top. So nice little 2-hour period there, okay? So again, that's kind of what we're going to look at, and obviously help understand best practice, big picture. If you're new to the channel, not a financial advisor, I love teaching people to trade. I really hope you can learn something here today. If you do, comment below, let me know, and obviously follow me on social media. All that information is linked in the description below, essentially. Very last thing too, also to note, is that I have a trading academy, community, and signal group, essentially, basically a university where I teach you to trade, and we take significant profits in that regard. In other words, any signal that I send out here recently has been hitting its target. We got target 3 for Bitcoin, 45% recently, and then prior to that we also had 57% for another Bitcoin trade and 44% for Ethereum. That was a 3-day trade. The other was 1-day trade. And prior to that, of course, you keep going, you can see some XRP profits as well. So love to trade XRP. It's a very, very good one. That being said, let's take a look at some of the standard stuff here. First of all, when it comes to moving averages, we're breaching. Again, we haven't closed this candlestick yet, but we're above the 200-day simple moving average. That's a pretty big deal. So if we can maintain a price point above that, it'd be helpful. Keep in mind that XRP was selling off based on Bitcoin kind of struggling recently, not doing super strong. And of course, it didn't go parabolic per se, but it absolutely had a pretty significant increase over a short amount of time. So what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just to say 5 days, 5 trading days, 64%. That's a pretty decent amount considering where it came from. Okay, so again, stuff like that from a technical standpoint, we're looking fairly decent for the moment. Hopefully we can get a candlestick closure above this support level here on Fibonacci at 47 cents. That would be a big deal for us. Furthermore, we can see RSI is trying to come up to 70 once more. It has broken above, but we can expect it initially to work as a resistance level, which explains why 51 cents was a resistance. You can see the price wicked all the way up to that level there and got rejected. And it's also, keep in mind, a very strong resistance level, because 51 cents, the price could never close above that. It has had significant trouble closing above that level, okay? So just keep in mind, 51 cents is a point of contention. For right now, 51 cents is essentially the point in which we have to expect the price action to get rejected. Keep in mind, it could continue to retest that level and break through, right? First attempt is almost always a failed attempt. It could even be a cup and handle type of pattern where the cup is coming up here and we got a little handle where the price is going to come back and bounce. We can look at smaller time frames to identify that and see what that looks like. But generally speaking, at this point, there's mostly positive here on the horizon. But you got to recognize that, again, this increase is fundamental. A lot of times fundamental increases can effectively sell off in time. So we got to expect the unexpected, which I would say is the price continues lower too. There's a probability of that. We can't rule it out. There's no guarantees, but I can assure you that this pump is definitely something to pay attention to. We also I want to pull this up here too. This is basically what we saw essentially on the social media. We're looking at Justin, Judge Overrules, and orders SEC to turn over Hinman documents on the Ripple case, or in the Ripple case essentially. So that happened just a short while ago, roughly 2 hours ago. Big surprise. We got a 2-hour candles cranking. Okay, so again, fundamental all the way. How much further is it going to retrace? I would say if it were to retrace, 47 cents would be a likely area in which we see a bounce. Okay, because a lot of times you can see a type of cup pattern form, right? And then the handle will come down to bounce to the next key level support. So there's a probability of that too. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's kind of where we're at there in that regard. Looking at the 4-hour, we can see here, of course, roughly where we're at. And take a look at this though. Look at this breakdown from the ascending wedge. That is so awesome because we were able to trade it. We got in right here and we were able to take some monster profits from XRP late in the week last week. It was really nice. And again, with it increasing the way that it is, there's a chance for the price to come down. So potential short opportunities as well. Let's see if that's a probability. Looking at the moving averages, we can see the 50 and the 20-day simple moving average kind of working as support levels. That's awesome. We like to see that. Keep in mind also, the 200 is trailing way behind, so not really a super big deal. Honestly, when it comes to the moving averages on the 4 hour, I prefer to use the 200 as a key level. The 50 and the 20 are not super important to me. So we're going to omit that for the moment. And what we want to do is kind of understand that we broke back up over 50 on the RSI here. That's extremely important. So we're over 50 on the RSI on the daily, and we're back up over that on the 4 hour. That does imply that we're going to, even if the price were to retrace, we're still going to likely see more upwards momentum from XRP. So what I'd like to see is the price come down to 47 cents and essentially give us that indication that it's going to bounce. So I'll go ahead and just add an alert at that range just to be on the safe side. So if it comes down and bounces, then there's a great chance it should continue higher. Once again, I want to reanalyze at that time before I take a trade. So, moving forward, I'm going to go ahead and try to continue to kind of explain the reason why I take my trades. So I'm going to try to integrate that as well. But for me, right now, what I'm looking for is a bounce off support. Okay, that's kind of ultimately what we're looking for. We can see the MACD is converging as well. This is typically a great sign in most cases. Keep in mind this is overextended though, right? So sometimes jumping in, FOMOing in, as they call it, can be disadvantageous, right? So do you want to consider that as well? Take a look at the 1 hour. Let's go ahead and see how exaggerated this is, and if it's well outside the standard deviation. In fact, we'll look at the 15-minute for that here in a minute. Let's quickly peek over to the cloud. All well and good, 100% green light to keep your position open. And when I say keep your position open, the conversion line and the baseline are intersecting. They're essentially touching. So it really implies that this is pushing up too hard, too fast, and that taking a long position right now is not ideal. All right, but what it does tell you is that if you have a long position, you might want to see if it comes down to bounce off the support level, so that way you can have a potential, continued interest in this and leave it open, right? Because the cloud is a really conservative indicator, kind of letting you know when to get in, get out. Right now it says leave your position open, but not to open a long position, okay? That doesn't necessarily mean you want to open a short either, because you're kind of betting against the house when you do that. Okay, so please just be careful. It's recommended to wait for the price to pull back and then buy in at a lower price for a long position to the upside than it would be to short on the way down. Everyone has different strokes. Everyone has different, ways in which their risk tolerance works for them. I personally prefer not to jump into something like this. It's moving really fast. I like to wait for confirmation, and confirmation to me is a bounce off a key level support. In addition to a handful of other things. What we want to look at is overextension though. Let's take a look, see if TD sequential tells us anything. We're at a 4. Hypothetically, we've got 5 more hours of continuation of the upside, but this was such a large candlestick, those 2 candles, that the likelihood of it continuing higher from here is low. Again, that rumor, essentially, because it's the whole buy the rumor, sell the news thing, even though that was news that we saw, it's essentially a rumor right now where everyone's trying to pile in, okay? Those that have the most amount of money are going to control that and essentially sell it or increase it, right? They could go up further, or they could take their profits. Greed is a powerful thing. There's a strong chance they're going to get greedy and take the profits and the price comes down. And I say it comes down, once again, just to this area, this zone, we're probably not going to see it just drop. The likelihood of it coming back down here is very low. Unless, of course, Bitcoin has a terrible day. That's a different story. But that being said, that's kind of where we're at here for the moment for TD sequential. The thing I want to peek out, I'm really curious about, is on the 15-minute chart. Kind of see what we're looking at here for the volume weight average price. We can see we're well outside of that standard deviation. You can see it kind of lost that momentum. So for this hour and a half, almost 2 hours, the price was above that standard deviation. Really just telling us that where the volume, based on price, it basically should be 46 cents, right? Instead, it's somewhere upwards of the range of 48.5, or at its highest point, once again, 51 cents and got rejected. So when you see a price going above the volume weight average price, continuing outside that standard deviation, and then getting rejected at this resistance level, that's a case in point where you want to short. This would have been a good shorting opportunity. Again, it's really easy to see and identify it in hindsight. I get that. But those are things you want to try to look for. That's what I looked for before when I was day trading. And the same thought process can be applied to Bollinger Bands too. It has a very similar process in which it works. It's just not based on volume. It's just slightly different, but it still gives you that standard deviation. It helps you understand that when things are overextended, they're going to have to pull back eventually. And a lot of times you can use this in combination with the RSI, and when the RSI starts to pull back, that's essentially when you want to consider taking your profits, right there. Okay. Again, easier said than done, but that's essentially what you're looking for. All right, so just some things to kind of think about. I do have all this available in my Trading Academy, of course. I touch on the day trading aspect of how volume weight average price applies to the price action and generally what to look for. But at this point, depending on your overall goals, you might want to consider waiting for the price to pull back. it could continue higher. You got to recognize that that's the case. And if you are long-term XRP holder, right, then you would buy in now and not worry about it. But if you are going to just say day trade or swing trade, I highly recommend a smaller position size right now because we don't know how much higher it could go in the immediate future. I think long-term or macro more so the next couple of days, it should be more bullish than bearish, right? We're likely going to see an increase even if it were to pull back, okay? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a pullback to 47 cents. That to me seems like a very nice long position based on previous resistance levels, as well as, of course, RSI and a handful of other factors. So at this point, I would expect XRP to continue doing its thing. So I hope that made sense to you. Oh, one last thing too, I forgot to mention this earlier. I am partnered with BitGet because they are a phenomenal exchange in the United States. They do allow for you to have leverage without KYC. It's really amazing, up to 125x. Don't recommend that, of course, but just generally speaking, it has a lot of options because a lot of other exchanges restrict you. So, for my members, that's why I partnered with them, so they can help my US members. If you register with the link in the description below before the 30th of November, you can benefit from some transfer funds. Essentially, they'll give you bonus USDT just for transferring and funding your account. Keep in mind you do have to use the exchange and actually trade volume in order to benefit from that. Okay, but I can tell you, phenomenal level 2 data. They are extremely good at what they do, and it's my favorite exchange. They've replaced ByBit and KuCoin. Those were my two favorites prior. So again, just something to think about. Take a look, link in the description below. You got some time until November 30th, but why wait if there's something better on the horizon, right? Okay, thank you so much for joining me here once more. I do appreciate you. Thanks again for all the support that I've received from my community members. And if you have any questions or concerns, you know where to find me. Social media, link in the description below. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.